Now, I ask if those who are able would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, may we have a moment of silence to remember those who are no longer with us. And I particularly want to remember Christopher Shem and Bill Walters, both of whom passed away just in the last 24 hours. Thank you. Now, how is the sound? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, good.
That mean, Chris is going to give me a thumbs up. Does that mean we need more volume? Okay. All right. Although I'm the person standing up here, I want to remind you that it takes a number of people to put town meeting together. And so I want to thank a number of people, particularly our town clerk, Kim Rickard, and her staff, as well as Wendy Martin, who's taking the minutes as assistant clerk, town administrator Bill Kearns, the Board of Civil Authority, who deals with absentee ballots and will be counting ballots in possible situations today, Gary DeRoja, the school staff, there he's back waving at me back there, who coordinates things here for us. And of course, the select board and the various committees for preparing and bringing forward the warrant articles today. Because we don't have the school issues on our agenda anymore, we are not having students help us out this year, so I've had to recruit a couple of experienced adults to be our tech staff in terms of handling the microphones. So that'll be Steve Nolan and Bill Toomey, wherever they are, but you'll see them in a few minutes. As is a tradition here, the Grafton Grange will be offering their lunch, and that's available at whatever time we break for lunch, and I don't know how things will go, but I think they'll be ready from 11:30 on or something like that. Anytime. And there is takeaway, and Eileen Gregory informs me that the price is still $5, so you can't beat that. At the rear of the room as you came in, you may have noticed a lot of materials. In particular, the town report, which has, of course, the warrant items and various budget information that we will be referring to. A lot of handouts representing organizations who have requested funds from you. Australian balloting on the high school budget and the River Valley technical budget. I'm not sure if all of these materials are back there, but they've been available. And of course, voting will be all day today until 7 p.m. at the rear of the room. Dog licenses. You can also get your dog licenses while you're here, and Michelle Dolph is in the back of the room to deal with that. Later in the meeting, I think we'll be discussing the infamous emerald ash borer, the coronavirus, and the school situation. So we'll deal with those things in time after we've worked our way through the warrant items. And as you are aware, the school, this is no longer the annual meeting of the Grafton School District, now that we've been mandated by the state to be part of a unified Grafton-Athens-Westminster district, known as the Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District. As you will recall, we are suing the state, hoping that the Vermont Supreme Court will allow us to return to having our own school district. This leaves us with a complicated situation as far as governance and budget approval goes. Grafton's own Jack Breyer is chair of the Unified Board and also the Shadow Traditional Board, and will offer information later in this meeting when we've completed our warned agenda. I'm privileged to serve as your moderator, and my role is to help conduct a fair and orderly meeting and help you accomplish the business before you today. If at any point you don't feel you understand what's happening, raise your hand. This would technically be known as a point of order and includes whether the moderator is ruling correctly on a matter. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the laws of the state of Vermont and Robert's Rules of Order. The body can overrule Robert's rules and the moderator, but the body cannot overrule state law. Only registered voters of Grafton will be allowed to speak unless the body acts to suspend the rules, in which case a person may speak but not vote. Will those not registered to vote in Grafton please rise? Okay, so now we know who you are, so that's good, thank you. Town meeting in Grafton is an old tradition dating back to at least 1783, when the first recorded meeting occurred, and allows us to discuss the pros and cons of the issues before us and reach what we believe to be the best possible decisions for the town. While we may have strong opinions, it is important to be respectful and civil to one another. Raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Then stand and wait for the microphone, which will be passed to you by one of our microphone assistants, Steve or Bill. Even if I have called upon you by name, please state your name for the record. Hold the microphone close to your mouth and speak clearly. I'm reluctant to ask for a time limit, but if there is no objection, I ask speakers to keep their remarks within 5 minutes. No objection, good. A person may speak once on an article and a second time after all others have spoken. The reading of short quotes is allowable, but any lengthy reading requires special action by the body. Again, be respectful of one another and address comments to the moderator and not to each other by name. Are there any questions before we begin? If there are no objections, we will dispense with reading the entire warning at this time and take up each article individually. Any objections to doing so? All right. Then, hearing no objection, we shall begin with Article 1. To choose all town and town officers, voting to be by Australian ballot, polls open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is there a motion? Sands, in a second.
Second.
You got that? Yeah. Okay. So the motion is to choose all town and town officers. Ooh, that sounds like an error there. Choose all town officers voting to be by Australian ballot. Polls open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The article is passed. Article 2, to act on the auditor's report. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Wallace, a second. Joe Polio. The motion is to act on the auditor's report. I think you refer to page 7 and 8 in your report, town report for that. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, then we'll move to a vote to act on the auditor's report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 3, to authorize the selectmen to borrow money respectively if necessary for current expenses in anticipation of collection of taxes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Mack, a second?
Second.
Alan Sands. The motion to authorize the selectmen to borrow money respectively if necessary for current expenses in anticipation of collection of taxes. Is there any discussion? Did you want to discuss that? No? Okay. Yes, may I ask who you are, please?
Sure, my name is Jane Flick.
Okay, we have a microphone.
Well, I just have a question. Is this above and beyond what the selectmen is paid annually? Or what's set aside for the selectmen annually? So I'm questioning if we set aside a stipend for him, I'm sorry, I'm kind of caught off guard here, and I think I'm sorry. I was just wondering what that, if there was a total of what he could borrow, and who makes the decision as to whether or not it's an appropriate amount of money.
Okay, somebody, Mario, please? I'm up for a minute or a second or two. There you go.
The article serves one purpose and one purpose only. The budget the new budget starts on July 1, and the last tax payment is May 15th. In the event that there was a shortfall, then the town could borrow the money so the town can continue to go until the next tax period, which would be in August. That's not going to happen because there's a surplus of 14%. So, but you never know what could happen in the interim. So we put this article in as a precautionary manner, but it has nothing to do with the select board's pay or anything else. It's strictly to authorize the town to borrow money in the event that for some reason the taxes are not collected, are not sufficient to pay the bills. That's all it's about.
Okay, I understand that, but if you've got a budget of $126,000, and you're saying you come into a shortfall, and you want to have money to hold you over until the taxes come in, aren't we then in effect borrowing into the following year's budget by doing that?
Well, yeah, sure you would. You would borrow it until the next tax is due, which would be August 15th.
So this would just be on an emergency basis?
Exactly. Yes. Kim, are you here, Kim? Do you want to explain it?
Okay, why don't we wait till Kim gets a microphone?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on Article 3? Okay, then we'll proceed to vote on Article 3, which is to authorize the selectmen to borrow money respectively, if necessary, for current expenses in anticipation of collection of taxes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 4. Shall the town of Grafton raise $9,000 and 0 cents for ambulance service? Is there a motion? Lisa Kissel, second. Keith Hermes. Any discussion? Keith Hermes.
Hold it close to your mouth.
Keith Hermes. It's worth every year just reminding people what this is for, if that's okay. So when you call 911 and if there's a medical component to it, which means that you're ill or you have an injury, or if the fire department is going to a significant incident, we have an ambulance service that we contract with, Golden Cross Ambulance out of Westminster. This $9,000 is essentially a retainer that guarantees that they will come regardless of whether or not they will actually transport a patient. They make money primarily by transporting patients. So if we have a call and it's just a matter of some sort of an assist or some sort of a standby, they're obligated to come and be with us while we attend to things. That's what this $10,000 is for. If you are ill enough that you go to the hospital during one of these incidents, the ambulance service will separately bill you for that. So this is just a guarantee that they will, come to Grafton.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, then we'll proceed to vote on the article, which is, shall the town of Grafton raise $9,000.00 for ambulance service? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 5. Shall the town of Grafton raise $27,950.00 for the Firefighters Association operating expenses? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Suzanne Welch, second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all right, the motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Rich Thompson?
Hi, my name's Rich Thompson, I'm fire chief in town. This is an interpretation of what it actually cost us to run the firehouse, the electricity, the insurances, fuel for the truck, et cetera, et cetera. Everything else we raise privately for most of our equipment and everything. But this is a true interpretation of what it costs to run the actual building.
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, then we shall proceed to vote on Article 5. Shall the town of Grafton raise $27,950.00 for the Firefighters Association operating expenses? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 6, shall the town of Grafton raise $3,000.00 for the Grafton Rescue Squad operating expenses? Is there a motion? Maureen Parker, is there a second? Kathy Ciano, Goodwin. Is there any discussion? Keith Hermes.
You guys want to take it?
Have to turn it on, Keith.
Hi, Keith Hermes again. So first of all, I'd like to thank the town for the continued support, financial support, and moral support of the rescue squad. We have a number of volunteers. I'd ask you to take a peek on the page where we have our report, and without them, care for individuals who are sick and injured in town would not be possible. We remain an all-volunteer organization, and no one gets paid to do what we do. We just love it, and we're crazy. We're asking the town to fund us at a level of $3,000 for the coming budget year. That's a level amount, and although our expenses have gone up a little bit, we also are very fortunate to have very generous donors in town. So we're we're going to attempt to make up the difference through fundraising. So we thank them as well.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then we'll proceed to vote on Article 6, which is, shall the town of Grafton raise $3,000.00 for Grafton Rescue Squad operating expenses? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Brings us to Article 7. Shall the town of Grafton approve expenditures of any grant monies awarded for purposes named in such grant or grants for the fiscal year 2020-2021? Is there a motion? Joe Polio is a second. Alan Sands. Is there any discussion, questions on this article? Okay, then we shall proceed to vote on the article. Shall the town of Grafton approve expenditures of any grant monies awarded for for purposes named in such grant or grants for fiscal year 2020-2021. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 8. Shall the town of Grafton raise $2,037.00 for the support of Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies, CVEDS, to provide workforce and economic development services to the Wyndham region? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Chris Wallace, a second. Joe Palio. Is there any discussion? Lisa Kissel.
My name is Lisa Kissel. So I have a question whether we know what particular activity CVEDS would undertake that benefits Grafton and development here. I don't know if there's a representative here. Also, is there any past, are there any past examples of activities that have benefited Grafton? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you give it like to Steve, and he can give it to this young lady over here, who is not a voter. If there is no objection to the representative from CVED speaking, we allow her to do so without objection. Hearing none, please go ahead and address the,
Great.
Identify yourself.
My name is Christy Beatty, and I am the Pipelines and Pathways Coordinator at the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, which is directly associated with CVEDS. I work within the 4 Wyndham County high schools to connect students to career awareness, preparedness, and jobs right here in their own backyard. We thank you so much for letting us speak and for your support in the past. We provide a lot of different services for economic development for the region. And as we know, we are a regional economy. We depend on one another. One of the things that we do with the funding is we take your dollars that are there to support our programming, and we leverage them for more money from state, federal, and private donors. So we're bringing money back into the community. And one of the things that we do with that is to create programming. So I'll give you an example, because this is my program. I was hired about a year and a half ago to head up this Wyndham County High School program. I am within Bellas Falls Union High School. And so far this year, we have, I've taught workforce development classes and resume classes to all of the 9th graders. We provide a sophomore summit, so all the sophomores connect to careers here with workshops with actual employers who connect them to the pathway to get jobs. Juniors and seniors this year, we've done some worksite tours, and we're now working with a STEM teacher to have healthcare folks come in to speak to the students. One of the results, which was really neat with one of the worksite tours, is that 2 of the seniors were asked on the spot to apply for a job at Whitney Blake, which is exciting because that's a pathway to success, post-secondary success. And I think that's one of the things that we all care about is post-secondary success for our students, and obviously a thriving economic community. So that's one of the things we do. Time out, sorry. Blah, blah.
As an educator myself, I appreciate that, but educators always say everything twice, by the way. So you won't have that chance. But okay, are there any other questions back here, Dr. Breyer?
Hi. I'm going to speak in somewhat reluctant support of this proposal, and I'll tell you why. It's really important for people to realize that we spend in our district an average of $20,000 a year for students attending secondary school. So that basically adds up to $80,000, the price of a pair of 2 cars. This is and where do kids go that go to our schools afterwards? They usually go to schools outside the district, and a lot of them we never see again. The 7th program, particularly the program that's set up for our secondary school students, is really the one program that we have that helps students find jobs and find career paths in our area, so that all the investment that you've made, that $80,000, goes and stays in our economy. So this is like, their fee amounts to $3 per resident. So what we're really talking about is something, the equivalent of what would it cost to put a windshield wiper on that car that you bought, paying those taxes for these students. I think it's a reasonable investment. It's one way of making certain that the money that we've spent over the years educating our students helps our local economy to the greatest degree possible.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll proceed to a vote on Article 8. Shall the town of Grafton raise $2,037.00 for the support of the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies, CVEDS, to provide workforce and economic development services to the Wyndham region? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Thank you. Okay, now we're on Article 9. Shall the town of Grafton raise $100.00 for the support of Rural Fire Protection Task Force for the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Program? Okay. Is there a motion for this? Joe Polio, is there a second?
Second.
Stan Mack, is there any discussion? Rich Thompson.
This organization is a state organization that funds dry hydrants in the state. And historically, we've been able to install dry hydrants around town for zero or very little money. I think I'm correct in saying that, between Eric doing the engineering on it and volunteer help from the firefighters and so on for the material. We were able to install them all for zero cost to the taxpayer, along with this organization being grant funded for us. I think in the tune of $4,000 or $5,000, I believe, every time that we have used them. And to my knowledge, I could be wrong about this, since I've been in town, to my knowledge, all the dry hydrants we have in town have been funded through this source. And recently, 3 years ago, they send us a voluntary invoice for $100. So that's what this deal is about.
Okay, any other discussion on this issue? Yes, over here, Bill. Bill, excuse me, Ken, pardon me. Can you just the microphone,
I just wondered what the status of new dry hydrants is. I know several years ago we were contacted and we just said yes, we would. I don't know whether you have a list of when they'll take place or what, or if there's something that we as landowners need to do. But we'd very much like that installed.
Okay. We don't have a list per se. It's another one of my very long as a volunteer to-do list. So it is on our list. I met with a few of my guys that we were talking about what the locations would be. And unfortunately, yours probably did get dropped down a few pegs because the accessibility now is really quite good, and we didn't know how much benefit we would actually get from putting a dry hydrant in. Apologize, I probably should have told you that before, but that's kind of what the talk is at this point.
Okay,
So-
because it's so accessible from the road.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, we could easily access that location right now in summer or winter without the dry hydrant. So that's kind of where it was left. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Okay, so let's proceed to a vote then on shall the town of Grafton raise $100.00 for support of the Rural Fire Protection Task Force for the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Program. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 10. Shall the town of Grafton raise $9,741.00 for humanitarian expenses? Bellows Falls Senior Center, $674. Grace Cottage Hospital, $1,500. Grafton Cares, $1,000. HCRS, $600. Parks Place, $100. RSVP, $160. Senior Solutions, $650. SEVCA, $650. The Current, $250. Valley Cares, $1,052. Visiting Nurse Association, $2,300. VCIL, $105. Women's Freedom Center, $600. Youth Services, $100. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Suzanne Welch. Is there a second? Lisa Kissel. Is there any discussion? I think you'll find information on these articles, on this article on pages 18 through 22, and then again on 39 through 41. Plus there were handouts at the back of the room on most of these things. Okay, is there any discussion on this? Sorry, I took up your time mentioning those things then. Okay, let's proceed to a vote on this. You're going to make me repeat this for the record, I know. Shall the town of Grafton raise $9,741.00 for humanitarian expenses as follows? Bellows Falls Senior Center, $674. Grace Cottage, $1,500. Grafton Cares, $1,000. HCRS, $600. Parks Place, $100. RSVP, $160. Senior Solutions, $650. SEVCA, $650. The Current, $250. Valley Cares, $1,052. Visiting Nurse Association, $2,300. VCIL, $105. Women's Freedom Center, $600. Youth Services, $100. Let's proceed to a vote now. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Okay, so excuse me, I need a sip of water after that. Article 11, shall the town of Grafton raise $175,000 for the capital budget? $25,609 for Highway Structures Program, $15,000 for the Fire Truck Fund, $75,000 for Highway Equipment Reserve, $4,000 for guardrails projects, $4,000 for Computer Upgrade Program, $5,000 for Bridge Maintenance Program, and $46,391 for the Bridge Construction Program. Is there a motion? Jason Archambault. Is there a second? Joe Pollio. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'm not even going to tell you where to look for this one then. So we'll proceed with the vote on the article. To repeat it again, shall the town of Grafton raise $175,000 for the capital budget? $25,609 for highway structures, $15,000 for fire truck, $75,000 for highway equipment reserve, $4,000 for guardrail projects, $4,000 for computer upgrade, $5,000 for bridge maintenance, and $46,391 for the bridge construction program. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 12. Shall the town of Grafton vote to make the office of delinquent tax collector a select board appointed office under State Statute 17 VSA paragraph 265(1) subparagraph D to take effect in March 2023 at the termination of the 3-year term for this office being filled this year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Stan Mack, and a second. Al Sands. Is there any discussion? Jan Atwood, the current holder of the office.
Okay, my name is Janice Atwood, and I've been the collector of delinquent taxes for 21 years. And I know, shoot. And this is my last year. I'm retiring. I thought I would let you know that I did ask Michelle Dolliff last fall if she'd be interested in the office. And I like her. She's honest, pleasant, and I think with all the work that she did with FEMA, shows that she's really right on the ball to work as delinquent tax collector this year. And I know we've got 3 articles, and I thought I'd kind of address a little bit of this after having done it for 21 years. I don't think, this is my opinion, take it for what you want, I don't think it's a good idea to have it come under the select board for the simple reason that it's too easy for it to become a political football. That's my feeling on it. Whether it's for 1 or 3 years doesn't make a whole lot of difference. I think if you keep electing the person as the collector of delinquent taxes, if you don't like what they're doing, vote them out. That's your privilege. But personally, I just wouldn't have it come under the select board. As far as taking away the 8% from the collector and just giving them a yearly stipend, I don't know, it doesn't say the amount they want to give. I've heard $1,500 a year kind of bandied about. I wouldn't have done it for that. Michelle is going to be in the town office for a day or 2 a week, so she'll be able to handle the paperwork and the computer work, and she's really good at that. She may not have to deal with people in her home or on the phone, or she may have to. I have had calls at midnight because people think I have an office and they'd leave a message. It really scared me at midnight to get a call like that. You may have to go out and visit people in their homes. The worst one I had was the naked guy behind the door. Came to the door and he said, "I can't come out right now, I'm naked." I said, "That's fine." Didn't want to see him. So the other thing is, if they're going to keep the 8% and just give the collector a yearly stipend, and the rest of the 8% goes to the town, as it is now, the town is getting 16.5% interest, which I think is kind of steep. And then if they keep even more, it could get up to 20% a year. My feelings is like 1% a month would be pretty fair. You have to keep the amount up there, the percentage, so that it entices people to pay sooner rather than later. And the 8%'s always been something that scares everyone, which it should. Trying to think of the notes that I wrote on this. That's pretty much it. That's the way I've kind of thought about some of this. I can't say that it's been all enjoyable to have the office, but I've met a lot of people, and most of them have been very gracious, very honest, and I've tried to treat them the same. I've stayed out of political things around town, and that's been one of the reasons. I think I just have to treat people fairly. I also had to work with the town attorney, and I've dealt with him since I think he was a boy out of college. So, and you have to take some classes on it and learn how to deal with the new legislation that's always coming down the road. It's not an easy job. I think I've done it fairly, and from what I've gone back and thought about it, I've probably brought in over $1 million for the town in delinquent fees. So there is that. So when you get ready to vote, you might consider what I'm saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jen. Let's talk about 8%, 20%. We have the senator from the state who always talks about the 1%, so I'm really getting in over my head on these numbers. Any other discussion on this matter? Rich Thompson over here, Bill.
Yeah, because the select board wants to take this over, I was just kind of curious if they had any background, why they want to, and if any reference of what other towns are doing and how they're operating and et cetera.
Well,
Okay, I'll call on Joe Palio.
As far as the select board are concerned, when we had our budget negotiations during the month of November and December, Kim Record is the person who made the recommendation to do it this way, and I'd like to have her come and explain the reason why the select board voted to put these articles in.
Bill, could you bring that up to Kim? Okay, our town clerk and town treasurer, actually, Kim Record.
Hi, I'm Kim Record. Yes, we had discussed this with our Sullivan Powers, which is our professional auditors, in the years past. We are slowly transitioning. It used to be the delinquent tax collector carried their own checkbook and then turned the funds over to the town. That was we were discouraged of doing that, so we slowly deleted doing that, moved all funds to just go to the Grafton accounts. Did that probably 3 years ago. And in the discussion with Fred Duplessis, a lot of the towns are moving to this way of doing the delinquent tax collectors, is having, you've got someone, you have an ability to search out someone that's got the ability to do the position, rather than just a local official that may not know a local resident. So needless to say, it does come down that we were recommended to possibly move in this direction. And we did not obviously want to do that to Jan, and Jan being up for retirement, this gave the opportunity to actually go through with the position and turn the funds over to the town, the 8%, and just use a stipend. The town would then get anywhere from, it depends, every year is different for what the delinquent tax collector collects. The 1% stays with the town of Grafton for the interest. The 8% moves on to the delinquent tax collector, but we're asking for the 8% to actually come back to the town and give a stipend. And it can be anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 a year. And we have to do it in the statute, the way it's written, because the position is available now, but we have not voted to move into an appointed position, we do have to have it on our ballot. So that's why we've got Michelle running for a 3-year term, which will be elected this year. After her 3-year, we're voting to end it as an elected, then move to an appointed. You can actually have an appointed position for more than a year, but we were asking for a year of appointment, not until 2023. Okay.
Kim, any other discussion? Over here, Bill, have with
Phil Atwood. The current system isn't broke. Let's not try to fix it. The 8% is enough incentive to make somebody do the job, and currently it costs the town nothing. And I think having to vote the person in is a better system. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then we'll proceed to vote on the article. The town of Grafton vote to make the office of delinquent tax collector a select board appointed office under state statute 17, subsection 265, 1, paragraph D, to take effect in March 2023 at the termination of the 3-year term for this office being filled this year. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. Okay, we will have some division. I'm going to ask for the members of the Board of Civil Authority to come forward. Come on, Sam, get up. And we're going to have to do a hand count on this. Okay, so the way this will work, I'll ask you to raise your hands if you're in favor, and please hold them up until we get a count, and then we'll do the same thing for the negative vote. So all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, now those who are opposed, please raise your hand. This is for those who are opposed. If my hearing was better, I would have seen the difference. It's 29 aye, 38 nay, so the motion is defeated. Article 13. Shall the town of Grafton vote for a 1-year term for the office of the delinquent tax collector under statute 17, subsection 2646, 9, to take effect in March 2023 at the termination of the 3-year term for this office being filled this year. Is there a motion?
Point of information, does this still count now?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm going to refer to Bill Kearns, the town administrator.
On the right, they changed it from a 3-year to a 1-year, so yes, you can vote on this. Was the question whether or not you should vote on this?
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
Yeah.
You're changing the term from 3-year term beginning in 2023 to a 1-year term beginning in 2023.
Right, and if it turned out it couldn't be done, it would be a moot point anyway, so it wouldn't matter one or the other. So anyway, is there a motion to put this on the floor? Joe Polio, was there a second? Bill Kearns. So, okay, so the motion is now on the floor. Is there any discussion? Mary Beth Culver over here.
Mary Beth Culver. So currently, it's a 3-year term, and the vote would be to shorten it to a 1-year term. Is that correct? Yes. If that is correct, I would be concerned that a position like this would have a steep learning curve, and having to replace a person every year, I think would be difficult.
I think Bill wants to speak.
No, I was just asking a question. Yes, that is the intent, to change it to a 1-year term beginning 2023.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Question for, I assume, the select board, probably Bill, is what is the process if, for whatever reason, the town is unhappy during a 3-year term? Is it theirs to give up, or is there a way to terminate them beyond that?
Cynthia?
It was always a 1-year term until a few years ago when we made the clerk position 3 years and the treasurer position 3 years, and we made the collector of delinquent taxes for 3 years. So it's nothing, it might be a good thing to do it this way in case you do want to appoint and not vote someone, if someone doesn't want to run, because they can always run.
Okay, yes, any discussion, questions? Kim, record is back.
The actual intent of this article was to go along with whether you turn it to an appointment, and then the appointment would have been just like we have with our capital budget members and all of our other committees. It would be a 1-year appointment by the select board, so they would hold a term for 1 year. So all 3 of the next articles, or the next 2 articles, were to play along with the first article that we just voted down. So again, we're going to move to the 8% of the equal amount of the 8% of the town.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, let's proceed to a vote on Article 13. Shall the town of Grafton vote for a 1-year term for the office of the delinquent tax collector under State Statute 17, Chapter 17, VSA 2646-9 to take effect March 2023 at the termination of the 3-year term for this office being filled this year? You have a question? I'm ready to vote, but I'll take a question.
Al Sands. So if we vote this, in 2023, we go to 1-year increments. Correct? So that's what it says? It will take effect in 2023?
Yes.
So if we vote yes on that, we will currently fill the term for 3 years. Is that correct?
Yes. It's 3 years, and then after 2023, we go to 1 year. Right? I'm not supposed to answer questions, but I think that's right. Okay, Deborah?
I didn't understand the response about what does the town do if they are unhappy with the tax collector, the delinquent tax collector. There was no response to that. And that makes a difference between 3 and 1 year.
All right, I'll allow a response to that if someone wishes to make one, otherwise we're going to proceed to vote. Okay, so are you answering that or asking another question? We really had ended the discussion. I yielded to point of order, which has opened up enough more questions, but really we're just prepared to vote on this, like it or not. I know it's confusing, but
I think it's confusing.
it is.
So I think you need some more discussion.
What end?
Perhaps
The question was a specific question, and nobody's prepared to answer it. There was no other
Michelle may have a different question.
offered when I
My feeling is if you're unhappy with the selectmen, or the town treasurer, or anybody who's elected, how do you get rid of them? That's what your question is, right? There is no, I mean, how do you get rid of them? You don't. Thank you. I mean, right? Until the next election. So, it's not a big deal.
Is this a point of order?
No, I just want to answer that question.
Okay, I have an answer to the question.
Well, they're in office.
Okay, that's a new question. All right, let's proceed to a vote on this issue, which I've read a couple times now, and so hopefully we're prepared to vote. All those in favor of the article, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Nay. I would say that the nays have it, and the motion is defeated. And I've got one more article on this, and then we're going to switch gears here. Article 14. Shall the town of Grafton pay the delinquent tax collector a stipend compensation in lieu of the 8% commission, the latter of which shall be turned over to the municipality once a month in accordance with 32, this again, state statute 32, subsection 16743, and statute 24, subsection 1530. Is there a motion? Kim Record, is there a second? Bill Kearns. So the motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Michelle Dufort over here.
So I just want to make sure I understand what happened here. So the position has been now up for vote for 3 years, correct?
Correct.
And
It's voted on by the town.
because it's on the ballot. And it's not going to be an appointed position in 2023 because we voted against that. And it's not going to be a one-year position because we voted against that. So does this mean that whoever is elected would, if we voted yes for this, would only receive a stipend and not the 8% that they previously received?
Yes.
Okay, that was all I wanted to know.
We see Kim Record nodding her head yes in response to that. So, Carol Lynn.
I think this is for Janice. It seems like it's a time-consuming position, and that you probably spend quite a bit of time trying to collect these taxes. Any idea, because it seems like a stipend, it would be a serious cut in the amount of pay. So can you kind of give us an idea of how much time, or obviously you feel that, you're leaving the position, so this has nothing to do with you, that the 8% is a fair wage for what you were doing.
It has been for years. It's a system that has worked. And I just think it's, it has worked.
Mic, please?
Yeah, microphone.
Yeah, sorry. It's a system that was put into effect years ago, probably decades and decades ago, and it has worked. And I think it gives that person an incentive to keep the job and do a good job at it. The actual delinquent day of May 15th or thereabouts, for a couple months afterwards, there is a lot of time involved in it. After that, you're going to make phone calls, and it slows down because you have fewer and fewer people to deal with. Depends on, I don't think, to tell you the truth, I don't think I ever had less than a gross paycheck of $5,000 a year. If I ran a tax sale on a high property or several tax sales, then the amount I received that year would be more. And as far as tax sales go, that's another thing, I should have brought it up. if I had to be under the auspices of the select board and somebody said, I think you need to run a tax sale, these people need to pay up, if that's their home, I would have resigned. I will tell you that. I don't want anybody telling me that I have to kick you out of your home. If it's a second home, piece of land, a camp, I don't have a problem with that. But I would never have kicked anyone out of their home because I was told to. So, yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Jen. I think, gentlemen, first Will and then the other one.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm just wondering about the alignment of incentives, whether the incentives are more properly a percentage called a commission in this, or whether it would be a fixed rate like a stipend. Now, one can always figure out what a fair fixed wage is, and you will certainly figure that out pretty quickly if you get nobody applying for the job. In terms of 8%, so that's gonna fluctuate a lot, and I could see things both ways. You know, I could see that an 8% would be maybe an adequate incentive to really be conscientious about your job. It could also be an incentive to be too conscientious about your job. And so I don't know how to value that. So I'm actually wondering if you could give some response to whether you think, you know, I mean, we all know what a salesman on commission can do. Sometimes good, sometimes not. And so I'm just wondering, okay, where's the proper kind of incentive for a job like this? So I'm wondering if you could give me a response from your experience. Thank you.
Okay, back here, the gentleman in the pink hat was next.
Did she want to respond? Is that a question that Will had?
Yeah.
I think that needs a response first before we...
Well, she didn't look like she was jumping up to do so.
Well, yeah.
I will.
Well, all right, I'm going to go to the other side.
My question is that, my concern is that we're voting for a delinquent tax collector today. And this act is proposing a change in how they are compensated. It seems it's poor timing, bad timing. If we were going to change the compensation, maybe the person who is running for that position wouldn't want it under a different compensation. So shouldn't this be done at a later time before those who are interested in running for that position?
Okay, we're going to go to Kim and then back over to Phil here.
Okay, like I said, this had been thought about for probably the last 3 years at least, with discussions, like I said, with our auditors for duplicity. So this has kind of been discussed, knowing that there's going to be a compensation. That was one of the reasons Michelle is in the office. Assistant treasurer does collect taxes, fully aware of it, and feels as though it can just intertwine with what she's already doing, along with, right now, the delinquent tax list is less than like 12 people. So if you're on top of this, and you stay abroad, and you really are diligent about approaching people in a nice manner, you can keep your delinquent tax list down, and you won't run into having to have tax sales. We need more policies. We don't have enough policies that are even strong enough for any of the reasons for a delinquent tax collector.
Okay, now over to Phil. You can get the microphone.
Phil Atwood again. I'm a real estate agent and I work on commission, and this position has worked on 8% and it's worked fine. I don't know why we're trying to change it.
Okay, and over here to Kate.
Hi. It's green. Yeah.
Speak up.
Okay. I would just like to go back to addressing the issue of what do you do if you don't like the official?
And I'm surprised that there's got to be someone else in this room that follows the statutes, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's, you know, VSA is a 24, Chapter 123 on the recall of elected officials. And if you want to read it, it's, you know, you need a petition. If any elected town official officer may be removed from office as follows, and it goes on to tell you how. So, yeah, there's a statute regarding that in case any of our elected officials aren't aware of it.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Any other discussion on this issue over here? Al Sands?
I guess I'd like to ask a question of Kim. The select board hires a professional auditor. The professional auditor has recommended that we go in the direction of this article. There must be some reason why the professional auditor has encouraged us to do that rather than following the procedure that we've done for several years.
Thank you. And Kim?
When Frank discussed it with us, it wasn't a total recommendation. He said that is the way the towns are tending to move forward, is to have it an appointed position and bring the funds into the town itself, the 8%. This is one of the big incentives for the position, is to bring more funds into the town. It's just a part of our revenue. But it is up to the voters, he said, so he's not like, you have to do this or you should do this. But it is a recommendation that, yes, if your voters so choose to, this is the only way to do it.
Okay, thank you. Was there somebody over here? I'm going to take somebody that hasn't spoken yet. Okay, over here, Linda Robertson, and then over here.
Linda Robertson. I want to make sure that if this gets voted in this year, it means it takes place this coming fiscal year for whoever the tax, if Michelle is voted in, it would affect her. This is not 2023, is that right?
This fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then go to Mary Beth.
This is just an observance. When we first moved here, which is roughly 20 years ago, which coincidentally sounds about when you started, the delinquent tax list was a much longer tax list and had a lot more money outstanding in there that hadn't been collected, for whatever it's worth.
Okay, and then Phil, I think, unless there's somebody else, okay, Phil?
I just have a question about the X in this article. What is the stipend or stipend, depending on where you're from?
Is there an outset of the stipend of this question? The question is, was there an amount set for the stipend? Is there a specific amount? I think Kim has that.
Yes, on page 12, there is a stipend listed of $1,500 under the salaries or compensation for collector of delinquent taxes. And you can see in 1819, there was an actual revenue of $8,598.
Okay. And then Tom, over here.
Thomas Toscano. I actually had no intent of speaking, but it seems that perhaps we need to appeal to a higher power, go back to the Bible. The tax delinquent, the tax collector was not beloved. I think the 8%, let him have it. And it's a very tricky job. $1,500 just doesn't sound like a lot to go and invade people's economic reality.
Okay, thank you. I think we're at the end, are we, discussion? Okay, we're prepared to vote. On the article, shall the town of Grafton pay the delinquent tax collector stipend for compensation in lieu of the 8% commission? The latter which shall be turned over to the municipality once a month in accordance with the cited state statutes. All those in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Nay. It would appear the nays have it. The nays do have it. The motion is defeated. Okay, now, waiting patiently here is one of our state representatives, and if there is no objection, I'd like to ask him to come forward and have a chance to speak to you. Okay, thank you. This is Matt Trieber, who's actually our outgoing representative. He has resigned recently in lieu of working with his students. I also wanted to say that I've been in touch with Carolyn Partridge, who is up to her neck in a fiscal issue over in Wyndham, where she's also on the Board of Ed, and is not going to be able to make it here today. So with that, I'll give you Matt Trieber for his swan song.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You stole half my speech of saying that Carolyn is stuck in Wyndham. So I'm going to be as quick as possible because I'm no longer your rep. But it didn't feel right to have town meeting without coming around one last time and seeing everyone and just saying thank you for the past 10 years. It's been really phenomenal to have the opportunity to work with all of you and spend time with you and get to know you. For those of you who don't know, I work in the off-season with people with disabilities. For years I was working on the adult caseload and recently started to work in schools with students with disabilities in the area, and was faced with the decision of having to leave, either leave the legislature or basically an entire senior class of students that I was working with wouldn't have a counselor for the rest of the year. So I had to make the decision that I did. But I can't tell you how much it means to me to have had the opportunity that this community gave me over the past 10 years. And it just didn't feel right to not come by and say thank you. And I will still be here and around, just serving in a different way. As was said, Carolyn is stuck in Wyndham over a fiscal issue. She's going to try to swing by later, but I did bring Carolyn's town meeting reports over there with her contact information. I'm also happy to speak to anyone and get any messages back to her that you want. And she's going to do her best to get over here by the time you guys finish up. But after that discussion on delinquent tax collectors, I think you're speeding right through, so she may not make it. But again, thank you all, and thank you for the time today. It means a lot to me. Like this.
I'm kidding, Matt. He bought a kayak a couple of years ago at the infamous fire department tag sale. They got to get the paddle with it, and he's been looking for a paddle ever since. And of course, he's been up the creek there in Montpelier without a paddle all this time. Okay, I also noticed we have a representative of the Sheriff's Department who probably doesn't want to speak. I'm not sure, okay, but she's there if you want to take your complaints to her, and if you want to argue over a recent speeding ticket or something, I'm sure she'd be more than pleased to thank you for being with us today. Okay, let's resume our agenda then at Article 15. Shall the town of Grafton raise $601,093.00 for the maintenance of highways and bridges? Is there a motion? Joe Polio. Is there a second? Al Sands. Is there any discussion? Okay, yes, right here. I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Hi, I'm Jane Flecker. I just have a quick question. How does this Article 15 tie in with the last line on Article 11, which also indicates in excess of $51,000 for bridge maintenance program and bridge construction? So how does that tie in with the money's noted on Article 15.
The two is, one is the 601,000, that's the actual operating expenses of the highway department itself. The other number is part of the capital budget program. That's money that's put in on an annual basis to project ahead so we don't have these large fluctuation in taxes, so we can go ahead and fix or repair the culverts, et cetera, that we have in town. So we try to put money ahead so we don't get hit with a large increase. A lot of these culverts are very, very expensive. We're going to be doing one, I think up on Hinkley Brook probably this summer, and that's in the neighborhood of somewhere $160,000 or something to that effect. So these are not inexpensive structures.
Okay, any other questions? All right, then let's proceed to vote on Article 15. Shall the town of Grafton raise $601,093.00 for the maintenance of highways and bridges? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. I guess we can safely say that the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 16. Shall the town of Grafton raise $226,523.00 for the selectmen's budget? Is there a motion? Al Sands, a second. Joe Polio, is there any discussion? Okay, having no discussion, we'll proceed to vote on Article 16. Shall the town of Grafton raise $226,523.00 for the selectmen's budget? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 17. Shall the town establish a reserve fund to be called the, quote, Grafton Town Hall Handicap Access Fund, unquote, to be used for the construction and installation of handicap access to the second floor of the town hall in accordance with Vermont Statute 24, subsection 2804. Is there a motion? Joe Polio, is there a second? Second. Stan Mack. Is there any discussion? Phil Atwood over here.
Bill Atwood again. I've got a question about the amount. The X isn't filled in. And what is the total project cost? And would this be not required or wanted if we were to take over the use of the brick church for town functions?
Okay, a couple questions. Take a shot at that. Joe Polio.
There is no amount. This is a reserve. We have to establish a reserve fund, okay? As many of you might know, we're in the process of restoring the town hall. Windows, insulation, heating systems and all. And we have a building that basically we can't use. I mean, with the amount of people here today, we could be in that upstairs. We could use it for selectmen meetings, we could use it for planning commission meetings, and various other things. So the Wyndham Foundation has generously given $10,000 so far for the handicap fund. And the select board decided that this money should not be put into the general fund. It should be segregated so that if and when we can get enough grants, and we are going to apply grants to the Ames Holt and to the state of Vermont, and hopefully we can raise all the money to do this without any tax dollars. That's the purpose. I can't tell you what the cost is yet because we have architects trying to figure out which is the best way to make this happen. So all we're asking is to establish this fund so any monies that have been given to to the town for this purpose will then be segregated and it will be used only for that purpose, not for anything else.
Rich Thompson over here.
Well, if I understood you, Joe, you're gonna set up the fund with $10,000 and when the foundation gave it?
That is correct.
Rich, could you just ask that one more time, because we couldn't hear you with the microphone?
Well, Rich said we're going to use the $10,000 to set up this. If the fund is passed, then the $10,000 will go into this account. Yes.
Mary Fader back here.
Hi, Mary Fader. Is there a public restroom in the town hall, or is that part of the planning for that building?
There is a public restaurant in the town hall.
Is there one upstairs?
No.
Thank you.
Cindy Gibbs over here.
And I'm curious how you're making access for upstairs. Is it going to change the outlook of the town hall? Are you going to have to take out a room?
We have an architect who is now working on this. I have no idea what we're going to come with. Obviously, once the plans are finalized, we'll have to have some kind of public hearing or a meeting to discuss this. Obviously, the intent here is not to change the structure of the building, to keep it intact. So hopefully we can accomplish this without destroying the aesthetics and historic building.
And you know there is a limit on how many people can be up there.
That is correct.
So we could not fit up there.
Well, maybe not today for this town meeting, but certainly other meetings we can certainly use it for.
If you know they're going to be small.
Thank you. Although we would urge people to attend any town meeting whenever possible, of course, but Phil Atwood over here.
Once again, we have, because of this potential use of this building here, if the state wins the lawsuit, what are we going to do with this building, and why do we need another one down there with handicap accessibility on the second floor? I think we're doing too many things, and maybe to wait to see if we have this building to use for a town hall, because you can't put all these people upstairs for 1 or 2 meetings, so I think it's a waste.
Thank you, Phil. Any other questions on this? Okay, then let's proceed to a vote on Article 17. Shall the town establish a reserve fund to be called the Grafton Town Hall Handicap Access Fund to be used for the construction and installation of handicap access to the second floor of the town hall in accordance with State Statute 242804? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 18, shall the town deposit the funds donated for the construction and installation of handicapped access to the second floor of the town hall to the Grafton Town Hall Handicap Access Fund? Is there a motion? Stan Mack, is there a second? Second. Chris Wallace. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing that there is none, we'll proceed to a vote on Article 18. Shall the town deposit the funds donated for the construction and installation of handicapped access to the second floor of the town hall to the Grafton Town Hall Handicap Access Fund? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it, of course. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 19, shall the town of Grafton pay its property taxes to the treasurer in quarterly installments, with due dates being August 15, November 15, February 15, and May 15. Is there a motion? Al Sands, is there a second? Nobody wants to pay, oh, Linda Robertson, okay. Thought we'd get away with not paying our taxes this year, eh? Aha, all right, so is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, then we'll proceed to vote on the motion, which is, shall the town of Grafton pay its property taxes to the treasurer in quarterly installments, with the due dates being August 15, November 15, February 15, and May 15. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. The ayes obviously again have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Article 20. Shall the town of Grafton levy an interest charge on all delinquent taxes on real and personal property of 1% per month or fraction thereof from the due date of each installment for the first 3 months, and 1.5% per month or fraction thereof for every month thereafter, as provided for in State Statute 325136. Is there a motion? Stan Mack, is there a second? Second. Al Sands, is there any discussion? Okay, then we will proceed to vote on Article 20. Shall the town of Grafton levy an interest charge on all delinquent taxes on real and personal property of 1% per month or a fraction thereof from the due date of each installment for the first 3 months, and 1.5% per month or a fraction thereof for every month thereafter, as provided for in State Statute 325136. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed. Well, we've finished our warrant articles. Now, we have a number of things to consider under Article 21, which is to transact any other non-binding business that may legally come before the meeting. Is there a motion to proceed with this? So moved. And a second, Sands, a second. Joe Polio. Okay, so the motion is to transact any other non-binding business that may legally come before the meeting. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is passed, so we can now proceed with the rest of the meeting, which is open to the floor. Chris, wait a minute. Let's take Sam first.
Can everybody hear me? No. I have a question for Rich Thompson. Hey, Rich, I would like to know. I'd like to know what's. I know you explained it last night at the select board meeting, but I don't know how many people are aware of what's going on in Cambridgeport with our mini toxic dump there. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, that's a leading question. I don't know how many of you guys know, but it must have been a couple months ago now, the town got tipped off that there was some chemical storage and production facility going on down in Cambridgeport. So I dropped in there one Saturday morning unannounced, and sure in heck, there was. We documented it, turned a lot of the information into the state, and Stan and I went back that afternoon and we investigated a little more, went on and on. And like I said, I got all the state agencies involved in it. Quite a lot of flammable materials in the place that were being stored illegally. A lot of tier 2, not to get into the weeds too much. There was no reporting going on and everything else. They are in the process of cleaning it up now. The company, I've been told, has been sold, and it is going to be moving out of the area. Don't know exactly what that means, exactly know what timetable that is involved in it. I was talking to the owner of the company yesterday afternoon, and she assures me that it'll be out in 2 weeks. Again, the state is involved in it. Take that for what that's worth. It's been not as a smooth running transition as I would have liked. But I can assure you that progress is being made. Clean Harbors has been down there for 4 days cleaning up the real highly toxic material. They were in there with the scuba suits, and it was a big deal, a really big deal. As of right now, there is, my most concern at this point is the amount of flammable materials that are in there. The good news is that it's all new material, and it is, I wouldn't say being stored properly, but it is secured at this point. We had a problem down there, and I'll tell you, if a wasn't one of our residents, but if anonymous, I'll put it that way, source didn't come forward, our firefighters could have easily gone in there, not knowing. And if anything ever happened there, I mean, we would have lost the fire department, and that's not an exaggeration, not even a little bit. It was that much of a hazard down there. It still is, but it is getting better. The state is involved in it. I'm keeping an eye on it the best I can, and that's where we're at. It's a mess, but it is getting better.
Okay. Anyone else? Joe Palio?
I'd just like to take time, I don't know if everybody's aware that Josh Hearn, selectman, resigned during the year, and Chris Wallace stepped up to fill his position. He's done an excellent job, and I want to thank him for his service.
Chris, I think, left the room to go work with the Grange Luncheon, by the way. As you know, we all wear more than one hat in this town. So, Al Sands.
Al Sands. For those that don't know me, in my working career, I worked for the Department of Forest and Parks for 35 years, part of which was in forest resource protection, which would be forest fire control, insect disease, and forest health. So the display in the back of the room is something I put together, and unfortunately, I am the bearer of bad news that for those that don't know, we have an emerald ash borer outbreak. This is all kind of fast paced because it's unfolding very quickly. Emerald ash borer originally came to our country about 20 years ago in the Midwest, so we have some experience as to what will happen to the ash. We're not just pumping it up. We actually know what's going to happen. In the Midwest, where they have had it, 99% of the ash trees have died. It affects all three species that we have here: white ash, green ash, and black ash. Somebody says, well, how do you tell the difference? You don't really need to know because it's going to kill all three of them, okay? The issue for us here in Grafton is it has several potential issues for us. Losing the ash trees, number one. Ash trees, power lines, ash trees, highways. I mean, the potential is there to be a major impact. It's already in Londonderry. If you look at the one picture there that's on the left-hand side, partway down, it looks like a bunch of fried eggs. The yolk
is Londonderry. The outside of the egg covers 3/4 of Grafton. So it's not far away from us. It only moves a couple miles per year. So do the math, you say, how did it get from Minnesota to Vermont in less than 20 years if it only moves 2 miles per year? The insect didn't do it all on its own. It had a lot of help being moved with firewood and forest products. So getting from Londonderry to here is not a big deal. The select board has talked about this for a while. We don't have a really good plan. We don't have money in our account. The state doesn't have money in its account to respond, and the federal government has already told us, don't look to the federal government to fix this problem. But the problem doesn't go away just because we don't have any money. So I put the thing up there to make awareness. I hope some people will read the blueprint that says there's going to be a training session March 10th in Ludlow, put on by the Department of Forest and Parks, and it's to help train people how to go and do an inventory of the ash trees we have in town. A logical first step is to find out how many trees do we have, where are they located, and put together some kind of a plan. To me, a dead ash tree on Hall Ranch Road could be a problem for myself and my neighbors, but it doesn't affect a whole lot of people. A dead ash tree here around the school where kids are in and out all the time and parents are in and out, that's a different scenario. So before we are in panic mode, if we could go and do an inventory and set some priorities and say, here's the first area in town we want to work, and think about our travel corridors in and out of town. That's what the inventory should do for us. And then we could set some priorities as to where to go to work. The other part of it is cutting the trees when they're alive. They have some value. They could be firewood, they could be lumber, they could have typical ash uses. But once the trees die, they decay very quickly and their value goes to zero. In fact, now instead of being money in, they're money out because it's very dangerous to cut them once they die. The tree service people and the power company people have switched and say, once the tree dies, it's 3 times more expensive to remove the tree, and there is no value to it once you cut it down other than increasing your safety. So we have some work ahead of us. I hope some people will step forward. We're going to need a tree warden in town. We have to gear up. We have to put some kind of a plan together. I hope some folks will look at the board, and I hope some folks will attend the session. I've already been to the session that they're doing when it was in Rockingham. They have a pretty good system in place. You can put it on the phone, you can put it on a tablet, and the computer program's already done. It ties into the state forest and park system and helps you identify and locate the trees. So, but we need some volunteers, and we need somebody that's going to step forward to be the tree warden and kind of lead and coordinate the effort. So that's it, unless there's questions. Cynthia.
What kind of trees does the emerald ash borer, what stage of the tree, when the tree is mature?
Good question, Cynthia. It affects all age classes, so small diameter trees to mature trees. And when I went to the Boundary Waters canoe area last summer, when we traveled back from the Boundary Waters, if you haven't traveled the I-90 corridor, as you come through Ohio, Pennsylvania, and western New York, there's just miles after mile after mile of dead ash trees. And they're 6-inch trees, there's 12-inch trees, 24-inch trees. It affects them all.
And my other question is, okay, all these people that are in current use that have a forestry plan, are those foresters going to look out for the ash trees?
Well, look out is a good question. If you think the forester's going to wave a magic wand or do something to protect the trees, it won't happen. There is a method to inoculate the trees. It costs about $200 per tree, and it has to be done every 2 years. So if you had a tree in a park or a really high value tree, you might invest in trying to treat that. But trying to go and treat a woodlot where there's many trees, we can't do it. The foresters, like doctors, have different ideas on how to approach things. But I know several foresters are thinking, I want to recommend to my landowner that they harvest the trees while they have value. And so there'll probably be a lot of ash trees cut in the next few years. So far, and of course there's a concern that it floods the market and the value goes down. But in the states where they've already been through it, so far the value of ash has held up as they've harvested. Any other questions?
Do you have a question on this?
What do you project as the time we're going to start seeing dead ash trees in Grafton?
I think it will be here fairly soon. I own, or did own, a lot of ash trees on my property. I've already seen a lot of the ash on my property die from ash yellows. It's a mycoplasma-like organism in the soil. They seem to attribute it to where there was high sheep populations, and of course there was 10,000 sheep there at the Hall Ranch. But the problem is, Phil, that when the insects show up, they show up in the tops of the trees, and they bore in there, they build up the population, and you can't see them up there. And then eventually the woodpeckers start to work the insects, and they have what they call blonding, where the bark starts to come off and it looks a different color. At that point in time, you know you got it, but it's too late. And it's just going to continue to build up. I'm sorry to say, it's kind of a gloom and doom forecast.
Has there been any coordination with Green Mountain Power and VTEL with regard to trees in the rights-of-ways of the roads?
Good question. If you look on your monthly statement from Green Mountain Power, they're already charging you a service fee because of emerald ash borer. The towns that have done surveys have only surveyed the trees that are in their road right-of-way and have not surveyed the trees that are in the power company right-of-way. The power company knows they got a responsibility, and they know this. They stand to lose a lot of money when they start having trees come down and breaking wires and breaking poles. And just for you to think about, this past year we had 2 big ash trees that came down between Jamie Gregory's garage and Fisher Hill. Large ash trees that came down across 121. Luckily nobody was driving by at the moment of truth. It caused a bit of excitement, but just think about that happening to all of our ash trees. So.
Yeah, I think about that.
So do I.
I'm in the current use and understand that, but what I'm saying is I think that it might behoove us to try to coordinate with VTEL, Green Mountain Power, in a cooperative venture for the trees in our rights-of-ways. Like, a third, and a third, or something, and then all the trees that are cut the firewood could go to people that are low income and be delivered to people within our town. And I want to be involved in this.
I agree. There's like every unfortunate situation, there's some opportunities, but we're not that far in the process yet. But I do want to take a different approach. I want to work with Green Mountain Power. My hope is if we inventory the trees we are responsible for, as well as Green Mountain Power, if they will accept our data, so to speak, that they then maybe say, hey, work's already done for us in Grafton, we know where the problems are, and maybe we get taken care of first, but that may be opportunistic or unrealistic. But I want to have a conversation with Green Mountain Power and see where they're at in inventory and their response. But hopefully we get some volunteers. Any more questions?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish the floor? Okay, Keith Hermes, why don't you come up here, Keith? Might be better. I have a feeling this is going to be more news that we don't really want to hear.
Hi, folks. I've been asked to speak briefly about the coronavirus. I don't know why everybody is here in this packed room while I'm going to talk about the coronavirus. But I'm
goal number one.
Goal number one. I'll speak to this louder.
You got to speak very close.
Okay, here we go. So I'm speaking to this from the standpoint of head of service of Grafton Rescue, and I'm not an epidemiologist. I am a doctor, but I don't play one on TV. So let's just kind of a brief recap. So this coronavirus is a category of viruses. It's responsible for things like the common cold. But the one that's out now is, they call it novel, which means that it's genetically new to everybody. As of this morning, there are 103 cases in the United States. That's up 3 from yesterday. There are 6 deaths. Basically, there are no cases in Vermont, but there are cases in every state that we border. As you know, there was one announced in New Hampshire yesterday. There are approximately 85 cases in the state of Vermont that are under observation, and close to 20 of those folks have had tests sent to the CDC. So it's here, it's close by, and I guess the message is not to panic, which I sense no one in town is doing that. It's like a flu. You'll have flu-like symptoms. The issues are that it's about 3 or 4 times more contagious than the flu that we're used to dealing with, and it's about 20 times more lethal. People die from influenza. This just happens to be more serious. If you do contract what you believe to be the flu and have flu-like symptoms, please don't come to town meetings like this. Stay home, monitor yourself, and call your primary physician or emergency room if you don't have access to a primary physician. What they'll probably have you do is quarantine yourself until they can do a test. Vermont right now does not do its own test, so they will, if you go to the hospital, go to a physician's office, they're going to take some swabs, they'll send it down to the CDC to get the results back. So it's going to take a while. But the best way for us to not have this spread is to not be carriers of it, right? So if you're ill, respect everyone else, and again, stay home, and take care of yourself, and that's the way that we're going to stop this. So from our standpoint, how we will potentially see you. So if you end up having severe symptoms resulting from the flu in general or some disease, the way that we'd likely see you is you'd call us with difficulty breathing, because that's the respiratory component of this virus, is that people have severe coughing or difficulty breathing. That would be a call, 911 call, and we would show up for that. The things that we're going to ask is if you've had any travel to a foreign country where there has been outbreaks. Right now that includes China, Iran, Italy, Japan, and South Korea, or if you've been in contact with someone who's had the disease. If those are true and you have these symptoms, we're going to take precautions, which is we're going to ask you to probably put on a surgical mask. We're going to put on a mask. We're probably going to put on a gown. So for those of you who we've encountered in the past, you know that we're pretty, I don't want to say conservative is the wrong term here, but in other words, we suit up only to whatever we have present in front of us. So we typically aren't walking around in little moon suits, but in this case, If we think that you could be a person who is infected, we'll do that for your protection and ours, right? Because we don't want to be out here in the community spreading that around. And will be transported by that ambulance service that we voted to fund at the beginning of the meeting. Golden Cross would transport you, you'd go to the hospital, and they would run these tests, probably isolate you. I know at Grace Cottage, at least, they have a negative pressure room. You'd likely end up in there for evaluation and care, and that just kind of keeps anything that you put into the air would be put outside after being filtered. Let's see, in terms of your own personal hygiene, if you're not infected and you want to protect yourself, please don't go buy a mask. They're not effective, generally speaking, for a lot of reasons. I will tell you, I looked for, a little bit behind the curve here. We have a supply of these so-called N95 masks, if you've probably seen this in the news. Certain masks are effective against this virus. We've owned them in the past. I happen to look for a resupply just to be, at least be in the queue. Masks that we were buying for roughly $25 for 20 masks in a box. People are selling them on eBay for $25 each. So the whole, the best of humanity is coming out. If you're looking for masks, sanitizers, bleach, I'm sure you can buy bleach on the black market at this point. But so if you're not ill and you want to protect yourself from getting infected, sort of the common things are wash your hands. Right? The best defense is to keep yourself clean. Don't avoid touching your face, your eyes, your nose, your mouth unless you've cleaned your hands. For those of you who don't have that habit, it's a good one to start now. Washing your hands is better than the alcohol-based cleansers. They're effective to a point, but actually it's the soap in the soap and water that actually breaks down the skin of the virus, and that's the important part of that. If you are showing symptoms of a cold or something like that, you all by now know that if you sneeze into a tissue or cough into a tissue, you get rid of that. First thing you do is you clean your hands. Safer is to sneeze or cough into your elbow. I think we've all been taught that at this point. I don't know, so again, I'm not an epidemiologist. If other folks have questions or comments, I can take them or moderate. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just could you go over the list of the actual symptoms? Because we're not suggesting that everybody who has the sniffles has the virus.
No. So it's the difference between having a cold and a flu. So if you have a flu, you're going to run a fever, right? So temperature is definitely an issue here. In fact, there's this clever new acronym called Wuhan, which is where the province, and one of the things they recommend is if you have access to a thermometer at home, track your temperature, right? If you're feeling a little bit off, look at that because that's an early warning sign. So, it's going to be temperature, it's going to be, runny eyes, runny nose. A lot of times there's a GI component to it. So, if you've had a flu in the past, you feel generally crappy, right, and more so than a cold.
It's a medical term.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Only doctors.
That's right. All right, and bottom line, as always, if you ever have a concern in town about your health or your well-being, dial 911. We're happy to come out there. Again, if nothing else, just to do a quick assessment and see how you're doing, and we'll go from there. If you have questions, please listen to the scientists and not the politicians during the course of this. If you have questions locally, you're welcome to post them on the Grafton Fire and Rescue Facebook page. We're happy to take them there. Call the fire station at 2401. Leave a message, and we monitor that line. It's not the same as calling 911, but we monitor it when someone can get back to you in a couple hours. Or email graftonrescue@vermontel.net. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Good. All right, be healthy.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, Keith. Anyone else? Dottie?
I would like to thank all the many people that make Grafton what it is. The select board, Danny and the road crew, the fire department, the fast squad, the library, Grafton's Coronet Band, MKT, the school, Grafton Improvement Association, the Historical Society, Nature Center, the church, Grafton Cares, and
Don't forget the planning commission.
that comes under the planning commission, the commissioners who restored the brick church, and aren't we lucky to live in this great town?
Thank you, Connie. Thinking there's one more person that raised his hand who's on our list of bad news reporters. Jack, you want to come up here where we can see you and hear you?
As long as all the tomatoes have been already used and all the rocks are on the front.
Why don't you come over to the side here, and then I can jump in if I have to. Turn the clock off or something.
No, try to make it quick.
Okay, Jack Breyer is the chair of the, whatever it is, Unified School Board, Elementary School Board.
The Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District. Really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? I just wanted to let people know a few things that you need to know about the school. The first one is that this school is not closing. There is no plan to close it. Certainly as long as I'm the chair of the board, there's no plan to close it. And I don't think there is any way that we could close it simply because of geography. I want to make sure that people understand that there's no rational way to take kids from here outside the district, drive them back all the way to Westminster. Frankly, the Westminster School is at capacity, unlike ours, and there really isn't any place to put them if we wanted to close the school. I want to talk about why we're not meeting today and talking about the school. Partly it's because this is a consolidated district of 3 schools. It is going to be consolidated until the Supreme Court tells us that it's not, and so far the Supreme Court has not told us anything. So we're working on the assumption that until we hear something good, that we're dealing with something bad and that we're a consolidated district. We had a little trouble with our finance office, as you may have heard this year. It's one of many reasons why we put off the meeting of that unified district until April 9th. People looking at a calendar will be not real happy to notice that we placed it right on Monday, Thursday, so to offend as many people as we could. But that was literally the only date we had left available to us by the state. I'm sorry about that. There it is. I want you to know that we do have budget data. I plan to give you all budget data, but we had some reports printed out and it literally had the wrong school in it. So I'm going to just quickly go over some numbers so you know what to expect when we do meet on April 9th. The first thing you'll notice when we talk about it on April 9th and when we send you material, which we will publish on the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory District's website, is that our budget this coming year will be $6,792,000. Now a change, that is a reduction from $6,959,000, and that's despite a fee increase from the supervisory union of 3%. It's despite a new package of salary and benefits, which worked out to about a 4% increase per person. So we cut $160,000 despite having increases in our own costs of $160,000. I wish I could tell you that your taxes were going to go down, but the state took away our small schools grant and has instituted a penalty program for schools and districts that didn't voluntarily consolidate. We're one of them. That penalty includes Rockingham, which voted for consolidation. They're delighted to know that. The result's going to be about a 1.2% increase in our per student, what's called an equalized student count. But it's not because we have less students than we do here in Grafton. It's because the formula was changed, and I can't do anything about that. So I wanted you to know that we are meeting. This will be a floor vote, which is different than what you're used to. You're not going to be given a ballot and asked to vote it up and down. You could actually increase the amount if you like. There may be some people that will be interested in doing that in Westminster. Or you could ask if there are things that we could reduce, and we'll talk to you about that. It really is an open forum, and you really do get to make the choice, but you do have to be there in order to participate. That's the difference. In addition to the budget, you're going to be asked to do something else, which is you're going to be asked about putting together a semi-permanent board. We're operating under a interim articles of agreement that has a transitional board that was supposed to have a 1-month life. We're now on our roughly 18th month of this, and we really would like to talk to you about electing board members. They'll be elected from the floor. Anybody that would be interested in one of the positions, I'd encourage you to consider running. The way the system is set up, the imposed board is all members of the meeting get to vote on all members that are selected, but we have reserved seats. That means there'll be 2 reserved seats for Grafton residents that everybody gets to vote on, not just Grafton. 2 from Athens and 2 from Westminster. Some of my colleagues in Westminster kind of wonder about one man, one vote. That's the imposed articles of agreement, and that's how it works. So I want you to know that. And the other item that I want you to know, just to quickly go over this, is the future of this school and the future of the district as a whole. We're still waiting to hear what the state is going to do in terms of changing the governance model. If they revert us back to our old system, we have old seats that are now expiring. And we have an advisory, we're asking each town to create an advisory commission to help us with governance and to help us with contingency planning, both if we stay consolidated or if in fact we revert back to our old form. If you have an interest in that, please speak to members of the select board. I think that your assistance and wisdom will be greatly appreciated. Some of you may have heard, I made reference to the finance issues. There is a program called e-finance that has largely been responsible for the delays in getting budgets out. We had 72 hours to go through a budget and finalize it. I've kept a running spreadsheet of my own, which is one of the things we did to fill in during the period that we were fumbling trying to get a package together. I'm confident that the numbers are accurate because I've looked over them myself for the last 6 months. And I think that the amounts that are being asked are reasonable. A final note, our superintendent was here. He had to leave because of some of the legal issues around e-finance. He's got to go deal with a lawyer this morning. He did want me to let you know that we are all aware of the coronavirus issue. We will be setting in the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union's website some of our contingency planning. As many of you know, there's been a local case in the Upper Valley involving a person who went to Italy, somebody that actually many of us know, and that is, so we are planning around the issue of what we might have to do going forward. There's probably going to be some restrictions on visits, on travel for staff, and advisories for those folks that may be thinking about vacationing with their kids outside of our area. Schools are notorious hothouses for things like the flu. We don't think this will be any different, but we are putting together an advisory contingency plan, and it will be published, and we'll be keeping it updated probably every few days. So I wanted to let you at least know that. That's all I've got. If anybody's got a question, and if not,
questions? Jack? Scared of it?
Yeah, I think we did. All right, well, there you go. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jack. and that's April 9th is that meeting, and that's an in-person thing. There's no Australian ballot, so you need to be there. The elections are done from the floor and all that kind of thing. All right, is there anything else? Well, I wish we could have concluded with Dottie's kind remarks. Ron Paulette, I hope it's not more bad news, Ron.
Well, it's bad in the sense that we're losing someone who served our town.
Use the mic, please, Ron.
We're losing someone who served our town so well for 21 years. What I want to thank Janice Atwood for everything she's done for us. That's good.
Now, who would think that a delinquent tax collector would be known for her kind heart? But there she is. Okay, well, don't forget your dog licenses. The Grange luncheon is underway. You can do that. And if there's nothing else, Linda Robertson.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
You may. And I think we'll just do that by acclamation. So we'll meet here next year, same time, same place, for the 238th annual meeting of the town of Grafton. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah.